Thank you. Hi, Abraham. I'm so happy, and I have no problem at all. So, there's no problem why I'm here. But I'm in love since 2 weeks, and I'm so excited how this relationship will unfold. And I know Abraham can read my energy. So I wonder if you have one golden advice or tip how I can make this the most exhilarating relationship of my life.
How do I hold it in this place that it feels right now?
Yes.
Well, let's examine what the components are. It's new and fresh, which means so far you're only looking for and finding positive aspects.
Yes.
So what you've been putting in your vortex for a long period of time, this relationship, as you focus upon it, is causing you to match. So that feeling of being in love is the feeling of alignment with all that you've created through all of the relationships that you've been living, you see. So how do you hold yourself in vibrational alignment with that when it is likely that something may come up that isn't a vibrational match to everything that you've put there? Because you didn't ask the universe to bring you a person who would not allow any expansion in a relationship. You didn't say, universe, bring me someone who is perfect, who will never change and who will never ask change from me. You're asking for someone that you can eternally be joyful with, which means you're asking for someone who is willing to step out of the vortex and in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out and in. You're asking for someone who has the capacity to expand and the willingness to align with the expansion.
Right. Yes.
So you have all of the tools. You know what to do. In other words, the way you keep this relationship feeling as wonderful as it does today is by taking complete responsibility for the way you feel at all times, by owning your emotions, and by understanding that it is your work to tune yourself to the best feeling. The tendency in relationships sometimes is to find someone who is so beautiful, so wonderful in so many ways, and hope that you don't discover any flaws, but there's a flaw. There is one. And then hoping that they won't ever show it to you again. But there it is again. There it is again. What deliberate creating is understanding that if something happens that doesn't feel so good, it is your job to focus yourself back into feeling without needing that flaw to be resolved. Now that is the secret to a wonderful relationship. Meaning, as you say to another, or whether you say it or not, just meaning it, I'm asking no change from you. I have the ability, now hold on to your seats because you may not like this, but this is the secret to a wonderful relationship. I have the ability to focus myself into loving you no matter what.
Wow.
Because I have been living in a diverse world for quite a while. And I've discovered that I cannot seclude myself from unwanted, from my point of view, things. There are so many people who want things that I don't want, and I don't have the right to take from them the things that they want just because I don't want them. I've learned that this diverse world is the right kind of world, and that I just focus myself within it for the attraction of what comes to me. So, lover of mine, you say, I will extract from you by the basis of my point of attraction, not by the basis of your point of offering. I am attracting from you, and I take full responsibility for what I attract.
Great.
Jerry and Esther have been playing with this business of deliberate creation for some time, and every day new insights come to them. Recently, they were involved in a situation where red flags were coming up. And Esther was feeling uncomfortable. She said to us, Abraham, I don't want to have red flags, because a red flag to Esther meant that she was focused upon something unwanted and therefore practicing the vibration of something unwanted. And we said, well, look at it this way. That red flag is the indication that the thought that you're thinking, in other words, the solution that they were contemplating as they were feeling the red flag, just means that's not the viable solution for you. In other words, it just means you're on the wrong path. path. But it also means that a solution is queuing up in a stronger way. So when you feel a red flag about something, when there's something that may be a little unsettling that comes up, all it means is it's a calling for you to sharpen your focus. It's not a calling for a change out there in the world. It's not a calling for a change. It doesn't mean we need to have a sit-down conversation where I mold you, whoever you are, into something different. It means this is a moment of creation where when I'm feeling a red flag, I'm launching a more powerful desire that I then will find a way to come into vibrational alignment with.
So is it better to not talk about the problem, but just envision the way you want it to be?
Well,
without talking about it?
Here's the thing, because we've been really encouraging people to just not talk about it, because the more they talk about it, the bigger it gets. But in this business of deliberate creation, we want you and Esther, we want all of you to understand that there is not a problem with discussing the problem. In other words, talking about it is going to amplify what you don't want, but it is also producing more of what you do want. But when you're wise like you are, when you know about emotions, when you're wise like Esther is, then just don't get carried away with poking around at the problem. And the point that we're making here is be solution oriented. The other day, Jerry was telling a story that he has told for years. And at the end of it, and Esther has enjoyed it every time he tells it, because it just gets better and better as he applies it to whatever is currently being lived. And he ended by saying, and the moral of the story is, and when they settled in on the moral of the story, they both felt such satisfaction at aligning with the conclusion that this story had caused them to focus upon. So if you think about the moral of the story, in other words, what is it that you're ultimately reaching for? Loving this person forevermore. What is it that you're ultimately reaching for? Finding the best in one another every day. What is it that you're ultimately reaching for? Joyful, co-creative, expanding experience, you see. So as long, we just want the moral of the story to be so foremost in your mind that you don't get carried away, because there's nothing wrong with having a conversation as long as you're solution oriented, you see. The question that you ask, how can I keep our relationship feeling this way? How can I just keep feeling alive and excited and happy about it? The answer is, give the relationship your undivided attention when you are sure you are in the vortex. And when you are not in the vortex, don't spend too much time trying to sort it out.
Okay, wow.
Most people get nose to nose outside the vortex, and they practice the outside the vortex, and then they stumble into the vortex every now and again and make up. But what about a relationship where your relationship vows go like this? I am so glad to be together with you. And I'm also so glad to be together with the source within me in my vortex. And I love it most when we're all in there together. And it is my dominant intention to give my full attention to you from inside my vortex. So if you ever find me distant, it's not because I'm not wanting what's possible. It's that I'm not vibrationally ready for it in that moment. But don't despair. I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Wow.
I'll be right back. And then never, ever, ever chase anybody down. In other words, don't leave your vortex to go find them. It never works out. And don't ask them to come and rescue you. In other words, that for better or for worse stuff sucks.
Yeah.
Because it defies the laws of the universe in the way that you know them to be, you see. It is my promise to you that I will stay in the vortex as best I can. And from there, I will give you my undivided attention. That's the way.
Thank you so much.
Dum 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 dum.